Well, it's time for episode 260 of the 3 Point Podcast, and we are, of course, a tradition unlike any other. Presented by Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center and Skymint Cannabis. March Madness is over. UConn and LSU are crowned as champions. Our championship roster includes Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center and Skymint Cannabis. And speaking of Memorial, they've got some new things they wanted me to pass on, guys. There's still seats available for their Easter Bunny breakfast this Saturday from 9 to 11. It's a member exclusive event that will feature games, an egg hunt, pancake breakfast, and a visit by the Easter Bunny himself. For more details, definitely check out Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center. Also, they have children's swimming lessons beginning next Tuesday, April 11th. They have limited spots available and also taking a wait list for registrations. And Matt, you're the resident guy with young kids. Has Claire figured out swimming lessons at this point?
She's done swimming lessons. Yeah, the YMCA that we go to offers them. She's done them at another place too. But yeah, so she's done swimming lessons and she loves the water. But it is crazy because I was talking to my sisters and my family when we were visiting this past week. We used to just go up to the Corona pool to do every summer, swimming lessons every summer. And I guess as a kid, you don't realize, I mean, parents probably have to sign up and all that kind of stuff. But now, like, there's all these different swim lesson programs and like YMCAs and all like Memorial and all these other places you go to do swim lessons. But we just used to go up to the Corona pool and do swim lessons every summer.
That's where I learned. I mean, I learned from a lady named Leona that had the biggest, most freckly boobs I've ever seen. I mean, it was unreal as a young kid.
Oh God, we're off and running today.
Yeah, off and running.
Get on with the read.
Yeah, I remember the legend, Sid. What's his real name though?
Sid Sawyer?
Yeah. He was there doing swim lessons. He was one of the teachers when I was a kid. Nice. He's still around, I know, involved with Corona too.
Well, I do want to also say salute to Skymint Cannabis, another one of our great sponsors. April Fool's Day was just a couple days away, but they have No Joke 8s. If you know what that is, if you're a cannabis lover, you'll know what I'm talking about. They have a lot of specials on flower and pre-rolls, edibles, extracts. They have over 20 locations in the state of Michigan, continuing to grow. And just one of our great partners. Also, speaking of our great local partners, AZEE Printing Solutions, Capital Sports Fieldhouse, Crow Real Estate and Auction, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals, Taphouse and Grille, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. Well, let's catch up, guys. I know, Matt, you were on an extended vacation at Disney. Maybe you ought to start us off here.
Yep, back from Disney. You guys dog on me a little bit sometimes for the amount of times we've gone to Disney. This one was a little extra special because my whole family went, parents and siblings, and a whole group of 14 of us roaming around Disney. And we didn't see, usually, Ted, you've been down to Florida quite a bit. Usually those pop-up Florida showers, just even if the weather forecast says sunny and 85 all day, like you have to prepare for rain usually in Florida. We didn't see one drop of rain. Maybe overnight when we were sleeping, maybe there was a little drizzle or something, but sunny, mid, upper 80s every day, getting to go to the pool. It was, a little hot at the parks, but, I'm a little bit of a Disney veteran at this point. I'm able to navigate around and be like, all right, let's do an indoor ride or an indoor show to cool off, go do some other rides, stop for maybe some ice cream or lunch to kind of cool down a little bit. So we got a lot in. I mean, I was not necessarily like apologizing, but like kind of apologizing to my family. Like, I hope I'm not trying to be too demanding, because I was like, we'd get off one thing or out of one show and I'd be like, all right, we got to get here. All right, let's get here. Because we figured out if you do Disney, like if you want to do it right, I guess, you got to have a little bit of a schedule. And I mean, I'm definitely one to have like a plan and be scheduled, because if you want to actually do stuff, you got to there's all these different sections of the parks with rides and shows. And if you're trying to go from like, well, let's do this one, and then let's go way over here, do this one, and then back over here, you're not going to end up doing anything. So it's like, all right, let's go to this section, bing, 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 knock these out. Okay, maybe grab a little snack, move over here, bing, 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 knock these out. And we did that, and we got a lot in. We walked, my wife has an Apple Watch. We walked like 7.5 miles the first day, almost 8 miles the second day. Just us. We like my family. We went back on Saturday. We walked almost 8 miles. We did 3 parks in one day that day. So it was awesome. I'm seeing my parents, getting to see, their grandkids, the excitement, seeing my niece and nephews, and like my daughter, my son with their cousins and stuff, like have experiencing that Disney magic. It really was. It was a fantastic trip.
Of all the vacations I ever took in my life, the Disney one is the one I remember the most fondly and I only went when I was maybe 5, and which is weird, but I remember a lot of it, really. Seemed like it went by in a flash. I mean, the one thing that I've noticed that they've recently built that I think looks freaking awesome. I don't know. You're not a Star Wars guy, obviously, Matt, but have you checked out the Star Wars world?
Yeah. So yes, we went to, that's at Hollywood Studios, and Galaxy's Edge is the area. Yes, I am not a Star Wars guy by any means, but it's impressive. I mean, the Millennium Falcon is there, and I don't know what the other names of the ships. There's like other ships there. I didn't do this ride, but you can actually go on the Millennium Falcon and drive it. And so some people did that ride. The ride, it's more of an experience. It's called Rise of the Resistance. It's one of the rides in that section of the park. Honestly, it's never less than a 2 or 3 hour wait. It's always 2 or 3 hours. People show up 2 or 3 hours before the park opens to try and get in there. They have this new thing where you can get like special passes to skip lines. That one you have to pay individually for if you want to. We were able to get on it though. So there was one of those things like I have to do it, even though I don't really care about Star Wars, have to do it because it's always like a 3 hour wait. It was pretty sweet. I mean, you literally, it's like a half-hour experience ride. Wow. Like the storm, you're on like a ship or something. Like I said, I don't know the names of this stuff. And the stormtroopers come and take over, and then like you're the resistance. So like you get walked through, and stormtroopers are like walking you through. And the whole time they're called cast members. The people that work there. They're living it up. I mean, they're not breaking character. They're not like laughing about things, or they're telling you, because they're treating you like you're a prisoner. Basically, they're like, get over there in line, get over there. So they're not breaking character. And then you end up like on a the resistance people come to save you, and you end up like in a stormtrooper shootout, and you're going all over, and like Darth Vader's, and it's just like all this stuff. So like it was sweet. It was cool. That was a long answer to your whole Star Wars thing, but that area is cool.
So we used to go to Cedar Point every year, and we'd always go the last weekend of the year because usually the lines were very limited, but there still would be like on a Saturday some years when it was nice weather out, like the lines would be hell. Does that kind of ruin the experience at all? Like, are you waiting in lines like this entire trip basically for every single thing you do, or are the lines not that bad, Disney? I've heard they're horrible.
They're pretty bad for especially some of the big rides, but so they have this pass thing now where you pay each day that you go. It's called Genie Plus, and you can schedule out by skipping lines. So I kind of ran the show on that, and I mean, nice. I was taking input from everyone, of course, but you can do a ride to skip the line. Then when you do that, when you can schedule the next one, the next one, and it books times. So that's another thing, like it's another cost, but if you don't do that, you're spending 3/4 of your day sitting in line. Mm-hmm. And when you've got 6 or 7, kids, toddlers, babies, you do not want a 90-degree heat. You do not want to be sitting in line for 2 hours. The amount of snacks and like tablet shows, it won't matter if you're sitting in line for 2 or 3 hours.
Sounds like you were, although you were on vacation, it sounds like you were like basically almost coordinating like a Fortune 500 company with the amount of work you were doing on this trip, man. I mean, I'm listening to it. It's like, bless you for being the guy that had to kind of do this. You're obviously the Disney pro, so it makes sense you would do it, but it sounds like a lot of work.
I mean, it is a little bit, but honestly, it's fun. I like doing it. And, like I said, if you don't plan it out like that, you will just end up sitting in line all day. So we figured out like you kind of have to, especially like with my family making the trip. I wanted to make sure that they got the most out of their trip too.
Right.
So salute to you. And the follow-up question I have is, and I definitely appreciate the organizational skill you have, because I'm kind of along the same way. I know there was we discussed it on our last podcast before you headed out on vacation. Did it go pretty much flawless as far as all your scheduling, the family, all? I know you got a close family, so there probably wasn't much drama anyway, but did it all fall together really nice?
Yeah, I mean, everyone got there on time, and reservations were good, and yeah, everyone kind of at some points did their own thing a little bit. Like, you know, maybe some people wanted to go get a snack or something, other people wanted to go do a ride or whatever. So that's fine, and figuring out where we were going to eat lunch and stuff like that. So really, it really, I don't know if it could have gone any better. It was
awesome.
But what sucks now, man, is I mean, are you just in hell right now?
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
it does. When you come back from vacation, it really is like it's the worst couple days until you really like basically a whole week until you really get back in the rhythm. It's terrible.
It is, and I was off yesterday. I didn't have to go to work, so luckily I had yesterday to kind of
mentally prepare,
do laundry and some other stuff. But I had like 9 errands to run, so it's not like yesterday was just recharging or whatever. But yeah, back to work.
Yeah.
Got to get on that semi-retired schedule like Ted.
There you go. Nothing like it. Jared, you're also, heading into a real busy stretch, as they say, April in the D. How's it been going so far?
Yeah, I mean, really, this is like my last week of busyness, but I had like 3 weeks where, I think I maybe had 2 days off these last like month. Essentially, it's fun. I mean, it's what's nice is that we kind of have like a summer here when it's just the Tigers, and that day is April 14th. Red Wings last game is April 13th. So just kind of building up until that point. And until we get there, it's just kind of pedal to the metal. So it's all right with it. I kind of like it, man. It's like you're in a trench, you're in a foxhole, and you're just like, you figure out who's with you or whatever, that type of thing. That's how I like to do it. It's like you're heading to battle. I got one quick thing on my catch up outside of that, and this is so stupid, but I just got to bring it up because sometimes you just got to laugh at yourself. I freaking hate April Fool's Day. I really do. It is the dumbest holiday that's maybe ever been created, man. I got fooled a couple different times.
I was going to say, you must have got fooled a couple times.
This one was, looking back, it was so idiotic, but they were so brilliant with how they pulled it off. So for this, so stupid, but whatever. I'm just going to say it. So, as you guys know, I like Mackinac Island. I like one of their like travel guides or something like that on Facebook. And it just popped up on my timeline that basically, it's like the anchors that hold this island in place, their tethers have busted. And it's one of those things you're reading and you're like, there's no way this is true, but like, what a fun fact. And the way they drew it up, man, it was like they had all these like 1920 drawings. It was such a professional article that was written, pictures of where this like would be tethered in on the 3 spots on the island, like picto charts. So that fooled me. I sent that to my dad. He basically called me an idiot. Then the second one,
your dad, who is a teacher by trade, is probably like,
listen, I knew how dumb it was, but it was like I get fooled all the time on social media. Is what I'm basically saying is, if I'm getting fooled, I can't imagine how many other people are getting fooled by misinformation, not only on April Fool's Day, but all this other stuff. Then the second one that happened was this deep water connoisseur Michigan State propaganda account. Where when Hunter Dickinson announced he was entering the portal, they had some caption that said like, Hunter Dickinson says that all Juwan wanted to do this year was like showcase Jet, and they smartly did it where I just saw the headline and like the video below. The video didn't have any audio, so all I read was the headline. Figured, like my phone's just not working, the audio is not working on this, but he must have said it. So then I spread that misinformation around that he said that. So it just I felt really dumb this past week, and I hate that damn holiday every year. It fools me like that every year. So that's where I was at. While you're on vacation, I was just being an idiot back here.
Yep. I had a friend send to like a group with a few of us who we, talk a lot about sports or whatever. Cam Newton signs with the Lions, and he sent some article or something, and he was like, "Oh, the Lions finally addressed their backup quarterback, blah, blah," and some other stuff. And I was like, so I did. I kind of forgot when he sent that. I forgot for a second that it was April 1st. So I went immediately to Adam Schefter's Twitter because, like, for the most part, I'm like, until Schefter tweets it out, I'm not believing it. And there was nothing about Cam Newton to the Lions. So then I was like, oh yeah, April 1st. And so yeah, Twitter's bad for that because like you said, man, people like sometimes you can tell because it's a cheesy graphic done in paint or something. Some people write up legit articles. I mean, like this Mackinac Island one. It sounds like someone put some time into that.
No, it was
Mackinac Island tied down by tethers, though. That's
I mean, it was stupid, obviously looking back, but it was just like when you read something like that, you just wonder why the hell would somebody fake this? You don't realize that it's April Fool's Day until you've already made a jackass out of yourself. So that's where I was. But man, dude, these fakes and these deep fakes online are getting so good, like, and they're so pointless. Like there was one that duped me a while ago where it was just like, oh, Steph Curry's got a new hairdo, and it was just like him like with a shaved head. Like why? Like, and that was fake. It's like, why would somebody even take the time to fake that out? So I need to be smarter online, right, Ted?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been fooled myself. I've retweeted a couple different things in the past that were false, and I learned my lesson. If there's some real big story like Matt was just talking about, I'm gonna do a little research before I retweet it just to make sure it's a true story. But it's easier said than done, man. When it comes to April Fool's Day and other shenanigans, man, social media it's brutal. I mean, they could definitely fool you, man. You got to beware for sure. Before we move on, guys, and talk college basketball.
Sorry, it's changed. It's changed, Ted, from what back in the day, April Fool's was just like the water bucket over a doorway, or that's what it was back in the day. Right now, it's social media articles about athletes and Mackinac Island floating away off into the ocean.
Which I'll be honest, I like this version better. I don't like if I ever walked out a door and somebody dumped water on me, like I'd be pissed. So I just hate the holiday. I'm sound like a Scrooge, but it's such a silly holiday.
Now, before we move on from April Fools, did you ever have a classic April Fool's joke you played on somebody that you always remember? I all started off, and this is kind of a lame, I'm sure Jared will say, but when we were kids, I might have been about 12 years old, and my parents' basement every once in a while would flood, and it'd get water in it. And I remember coming upstairs and telling my mother, "Oh, Mom, the basement's all flooded," and then she went into a tizzy, bought it hook, line, and sinker. And then I had my chance to say April Fools,
Nice.
So that's my one memory that that really stands out.
That's a good one until you get blamed for it, until you get in trouble for it, until they figure out that it's a joke.
Right.
The one that comes to mind, I mean, I don't know about like practical jokes if I did a ton of those, but one time in college, sparing some of the specific details, there was a girl that me and my roommates, we were all friends with, but one of us had hung out with a little more than the rest of us. And on April Fools, we were all like woke up or got back from class or something. Her name was, let's just call her Barbara. I'll leave her name out. We were like, hey man, so three of us were in on it. We were like, hey man, Barbara just came over and told us she's pregnant. And he was like, I mean, you can imagine the reaction. And we played it
right, man.
We played it off for a good couple hours, and man, he was stressing out.
That's not even right.
So finally, we could tell him he was starting to really stress out. So we broke it to him. But that's always a good one. That still comes up. Like the four of us, we still have a group chat that still comes up every once in a while.
Yeah, that's not even right. I don't know. That would drive me. I don't know what I would do if somebody tried pulling that stunt on me. That's
2 hours of stress, man. That's
pretty
brutal.
I think he went through a whole tin of dip, and
yeah. Well, that's April Fool's stuff, but we had some good basketball. We need to get into that. Before we do, guys, just we had our 3-point podcast rivals contest, and I think we have some winners, don't we?
We do. Jared knows a couple.
Yeah,
we all we know them all, but
all affiliated with us in one way or another. First place was my next door neighbor growing up, which is Scott Birchmeyer. I think we didn't have the best pool where the winner was only 750 points. So we were a little bit lacking in our brain power as a community. So that wasn't good. I shouldn't talk. I think I was dead last. So
Yeah.
I think he tripled the 750 points the winner had. I think tripled my 250 points. So can't say much. Second place was Brian Farber, who's from the Grand Rapids area, Fox 17 connection with Matt. And then third place was Ethan Quinn, who's now down in Texas. So yeah, so congrats to those guys. They'll be getting their Rivals gear very soon.
Yeah. So we can definitely hold on to the Rivals cards. I'm not sure if they'll all be making trips over to Corona to go to Rivals for a burger, but we can send out. We've got some 3-point pod swag we can maybe send out, but a little confusion this year. We've done the bracket challenge for a few years now. I don't know. Every year, I don't know why. I just open a new pool. And I've had some friends tell me, like, why do you do that? I don't know why, out of habit. So next year, we'll make sure. I'll figure out a way to delete the old ones or something. We'll make sure everyone's joining the same one, because I think a fair amount joined the one from last year.
What's silly is I know for a fact, because I almost joined mine from last year. It will give you a red alert that says you're joining a 2022 bracket.
Right.
So Ted, I know you were one of them that maybe joined the wrong bracket. I mean,
yeah, mine did. I don't remember seeing an alert.
Media.
Yeah.
We were sharing out the link. There was just a little confusion, and we were kind of rushed. We didn't share the link until like 2 or 3 days before the tournament started. So a little busy this year. We got it out though. We had over 120, 110 people in it this year. So
nice.
Pretty good. Jared, so you said, the points, the winner, your neighbor had like 750. I know you have a huge pool. How many points did the winner in yours have?
I think like 11. I think the winner had like 1180, and that's because UConn. You know what's funny about March Madness and brackets is the guys who finish like first and second in that. When the brackets are first and out, like right when the very first game starts and you can see everybody's brackets. I remember specifically looking at those two brackets saying those are idiotic because they had San Diego State winning it all in one of them and UConn winning it. I was like, well, those are out. Those have no chance.
Yeah.
Little do you know, it's freaking dead wrong.
Yeah. Especially with this one. If you by chance picked San Diego State or UConn to make the Final Four, you were going to win your bracket pool because no one else did.
Right. In hindsight, and we'll get more into it when we talk the tournament, UConn, it's funny, watching them play. How did everybody not be on top of that? They're a good team, man, obviously.
They were ranked in the top, at least 20, top 10, top 20 all year. I think it's just the Big East, doesn't get a lot of shine a lot of times unless they have a top 5 team or something like that. So good program for sure. And I know we'll talk about it more. I have some friends that I worked with in Bristol up at ESPN, people born and raised Connecticut UConn fans that I know are just elated right now. And one of them, I saw his post. Of course, he picked UConn all the way to win the title in his bracket. He's like, you guys were all laughing at me when I picked him, but now who's laughing now? Stuff like that. So
that's how it works. Well, hold that thought, Jared. Let's take a short pause and let's jump right into the tournament right after these important messages. All right. Well, we're recording this on Tuesday morning. The national championship for the men's is in the books. 76-59, UConn over San Diego State. Really wasn't much of a game. UConn dominated the whole way. And I just got one question to start off. I saw somebody tweeted, would you take UConn's run with 5 national championships compared to Michigan State's 25 straight appearances in the tournament? Are you kidding me? That's an absolute no-brainer, isn't it?
I know. It's funny. I was going to bring that up before I saw our follower on Twitter ask that same question. I was going to ask you guys, and so you're saying no brainer. So you're saying are you taking UConn's? Or
I'd take UConn 100%. Okay. 5 national championships? Are you kidding me?
I'll be honest. I knew Jared would say UConn. I was like, I wonder if Ted will still go with Izzo and Michigan State in the 25 straight. But yes, so I looked it up quick just so we can let our listeners know. So since 99, UConn's first national title was in 1999, and they've won 5 since then. 5 national titles since 1999. They've missed the tournament 8 times since 1999. And that's about the time that Izzo's run started, 25 straight tournament appearances. As we know, only the 1 national title. Mm-hmm. So, and that was, over 20 years ago. So, I've seen some people say that like they would rather have the overall conference and tournament
They're
success
nuts.
than this like back and forth. And yes, what are you talking about? Like I just mentioned, my friend up in Connecticut, the diehard UConn fan. Think about it. 5 times he's got to live on this mountaintop of winning the national title. And us as Lions, Tigers, all these, Michigan fans, how many times do we have titles? The Pistons is like our last thing that we can remember or whatever. So it's like, no, give me those national titles. I don't care about tournament appearances if we're winning national titles.
Right.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know how UConn's done it, man. I mean, Ted, we were talking about the Mount Rushmore of coaches. I mean, Jim Calhoun, put him above Izzo as well. That's a name we didn't throw out there. I mean, 3 titles during the same run as Izzo. So I'll add him to the list as somebody that I'd put above Tom Izzo in terms of resume and coaching pedigree. But overall, just, I mean, what a fun tournament. It really was. It's always weird as the tournament goes along, it gets less and less like intense, or you enjoy it less, which is, it is what it is. I mean, it's a perfect product. It's just kind of the way it goes unless you have like a Duke versus North Carolina in the championship game or something like that. Right. But this tournament had everything. I mean, the opening weekend was incredible. The second weekend was incredible. I'd put the first 2 weekends up against any other tournament we've ever had. I mean, the upsets, you had game winners, Furman. We obviously had San Diego State. We had FDU with all-time upset. I mean, Michigan State was making a run. You had heroes like Marquise Noel. I mean, you had fun old school teams like SDSU getting it done the old-fashioned way. You had mid-majors like FAU making deep runs. It had everything. It just it never
teams like Princeton making a run.
But this year, especially, it really had everything you could look for. So it's just sad, man. I mean, I already did the math, 344 days until next year's tournament starts. So now we're just kind of counting down the days until next year.
So you laid it out, and I was going to ask you guys too. So like you said, really no blue bloods. If you blue bloods in the Final Four, no 1 seeds, no 2 seeds. Do you think that's good? I haven't seen the ratings come out yet on last night's game, but do you think that's good for college basketball? Is it good for fans? Is it good for ratings that there's no Duke, Kentucky, Michigan State, Michigan, LSU, not LSU. I was thinking women's basketball, but there's none of those blue bloods in the Final Four. Is that good, bad? What do you guys think?
It's obviously probably not good for ratings. Those will probably come out. They're not good. Who cares in that regard? I guess for us as fans, I can see why obviously the companies care, but no. The reason that tournament is so awesome compared to like college football is anyone can win it, and that's what makes it so great. That's why we love that opening weekend so much, because that if you can make it through that opening weekend, you got a chance to really go all the way. So no, it's perfect the way it is. Yes, it maybe left us with a little bit of a lackluster Final Four, but that's just because UConn was so much better than everybody else. I mean, FAU versus San Diego State's an all-time great game. UConn just happened to be that kind of team that didn't get touched. That happens every 6, 7, 8 years or so, it seems like. So they were just incredible. I didn't see it coming at all. As you guys know, I had them losing round 1 to Iona, which wasn't necessarily, I mean, they were the closest team in the entire tournament with UConn, leading them at halftime by 2. But no, I was dead wrong. But hats off to UConn. I mean, Danny Hurley, he seems right up your alley, Ted. He really does.
Yeah, I like the way that guy coaches and operates. I agree with you. And I think ideally, back to the original question, a perfect tournament might be a couple blue bloods and a couple of underdogs to make the Final Four. But the other thing I got to say is, really, when you think about it, UConn's got to be considered a blue blood, don't they? I mean, 5 championships in the last 20 years or so. I mean, yeah, maybe they've had some downtimes, but put those 5 championships there. I don't know. You put them right up there in the top.
Yeah, here's what I would say: if people want to claim that Michigan State is a blue blood, which state fans do, I mean, UConn's definitely above them. So
yeah,
well, it's similar. You can it's similar to say like in football. Like Michigan State's a blue blood for overall like program success. Obviously not like a ton of national championships, but they're always good. They're always winning the Big Ten. They're always making the tournament, even back to, Magic Johnson's days. They're always good. They don't have all the national titles. It's kind of similar to Michigan. People consider Michigan football a blue blood. It's not like they have, back in the 1900s or whatever, they were winning national titles, but since like the 50s, they only got the 1 national title. So people say the same thing. How is Michigan football a blue blood? They've got the most wins overall of any program, but not all the national titles like Alabama or some of these other teams. So the blue blood thing to me, it's just like a funny sports debate conversation to me. But I would say, yeah, UConn should be up there. I mean, why not?
Sure. Well, the other thing is the big debate always is, national championships, whether it's football or whether it's basketball. And there are some sides to argue when you look at the overall program, Michigan State doesn't have a lot of national championships. They have Judd Heathcote had one and Izzo has one. But if you do look at the overall program, it's got to be right there.
But here's the thing. It's a blue blood, which means basically you're one of 5 best programs in the entire you can't not have many national championships to claim you're one of the 5 best programs.
Right. So five's the number, not 10. I mean, where do you come up with
for
5?
Blue Bloods or for I mean, let's see.
Bloods.
We can name them. We've gone through them. Let's see. It's Kentucky. It is
Duke,
Indiana. It is North Carolina. It's Duke.
Right.
I would put UConn in there. 5. It's Kansas. 6.
But that's a thing. Like most people always put Indiana in there, and they haven't had
the last time they won.
Well, they're that's who I would consider as like the Michigan of basketball.
Right.
Is Indiana basketball. That's where I draw that comparison.
Yeah.
They have the tradition. They really haven't been there for a long time. But as soon as they make it back, they're a blue blood.
Right.
So if you're top 5, not top 10, would you put Michigan State top 10?
I think, in my opinion, top 10 for sure. Because like you said, they're always there.
Right.
Just maybe not the national title success, but
fair enough.
I mean, you've got to put UConn. I mean, I think it's a fair or it's a fun conversation about the whole, like, would you rather make the tournament every year or be up and down, but win those national titles? I mean, I think it's
easy.
Most people would say, I mean, it's kind of like as a Lions fan, would you take a one-off? We made it to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl, and then we don't make it again for 20 years. Yeah.
Right.
Give me that 1 year of a Super Bowl for sure.
Yeah, I would. I mean, Michigan basketball, we had a lot of success in Beeline, but I would have traded all that success for that 2013 national title that year. So it is what it is. We got to talk about Michigan basketball for a second here. It's been freaking dismal last few days. As I mentioned, I was duped for a second. I was feeling vindicated for a second because I thought that Dickinson confirmed everything I thought about how Juwan was coaching Jet. It turned out it was fake, but maybe it is true behind closed doors. But Kobe Buffkin leaves for the NBA. That was kind of a shock to me, at least. I don't know. I thought he needed another year to really kind of develop, but he's gone. Dickinson joins the portal, which was the biggest shock of it all.
Yeah.
What is going on? Do you guys make much out of those 2 moves? I mean, I tell you what, it seems like next year is going to be a big swing year in Juwan's tenure in this program. And we've gone from having what we thought was going to be like a pretty good to some would consider very good, team returning, and they're all gone now. And now you basically have to replace all 5 positions. And Jet Howard also left. I know we aren't strongest on him, but what the hell is going on in Ann Arbor? This program is in shambles.
I think it's more, at least in my opinion. I know I'm a little more of a Juwan fan than you guys are. I think it's more the state of college basketball than anything. I think Juwan definitely has some work to do, and he has to prove himself for sure. But I think, at least in my opinion, Dickinson, I almost feel like he's seeing the writing on the wall that maybe his game isn't going to translate to the NBA, at least right now. So he's just chasing a bag. He's hoping some school says, come here. We've got some wild NIL deal for you. Come here for a year and make a bunch of money and play another year. And then maybe you'll get drafted or something like that. Buffkin, kind of the same thing. He took off around midseason. He played really well. I think his stock is really high. And I saw a couple of the latest mock drafts as he's a first rounder, a mid to late first rounder. And that's like a $10 to $18 million contract. So why not? I mean, we saw the incoming transfer that they had this year, Llewellyn, blew his knee out, 10 games into the season or whatever. If you can make yourself $10, $18 million by getting drafted this year, go do it. Yeah. And I think that's what Buffkin's doing. Why come back? Yeah, he could probably use another year in college of development, but the risk of injury, and then why not go play, go develop? And I mean, look at Poole. Jordan Poole got drafted and did that rookie year, spent a lot of time in the G League, and now he just got a max deal, and he's one of the better players in the league. So it's crazy. I mean, the Jet Howard thing, we'll see how that plays out, but I think Buffkin is turning in. He looks like he could be a solid pro. As far as the actual program, like your question, hopefully Doug McDaniel and Terrace Reed come back.
Dear God.
Because if those two don't, then they are left with nothing. I think those two could be something to maybe, I'm not saying like win a Big Ten, but you got two players that look pretty good. All right, now hopefully you've got to get some guys in the portal. You've got to hope to bring in a couple solid players, because if not, you're looking at the mid to bottom of the Big Ten again.
Yeah. And again, back to your question. I mean, the jury's still out on Juwan. It does not look like he's a program builder, but it does look like if he's going to be successful at Michigan moving forward, he's going to have to be a portal coach. They're going to have to bring in people year in and year out, to join the program. And I don't know if that's a recipe for disaster or just a short-term fix, but if you're going to be in for the long term, you really got to be a program builder, don't you?
Right.
Or am I just old-fashioned and not seeing the big picture?
Well, I mean, you look at this tournament, I think is indicative of that. The one and done thing, yeah, it's like hit or miss, but you've got to have experience. Look at the teams in the Final Four. They've got third, fourth year players.
Mm-hmm.
And, you get the one-offs with maybe a Duke or North Carolina with a bunch of guys that are freshmen that might make a little run. But even Michigan State, that's why they always thrive. They've always got third, fourth year players. And maybe that, like I've said before, maybe that's how Juwan, he's recruiting guys that mostly plan on being one and done. They're kind of blue chip type players that want that one year in the league, maybe two, like Buffkin, and then they want to go pro. Jet almost always said he was going to be one and done. I mean, of course, he was always going to come play for his dad, but maybe you need to start recruiting guys that are a little more, they are going to take some work, so they're going to be in your program 2-3 years.
Well, it's just like we're Michigan in the portal. It's like it's a second tier program. Kentucky's big in the portal. Duke goes and gets guys in the portal. All these schools are getting guys in the portal. Whereas Beeline understood, obviously the portal wasn't around when he was here, but he understood that you kind of like what Michigan State and Tom Izzo have still been able to do despite the portal being around, is they're still able to keep their key guys intact. Tyson Walker, Hoggard. I mean, they're going on 4 years now at Michigan State. That's what you have to do at Michigan. You can't, you're never going to get the top tier portal guys. You're never going to get the top tier one and done guys. So him trying to do this, it just makes no sense to me. I don't think it works. I hate watching it as a fan. You don't know who these guys are until the season's just about over.
Yeah.
Selfishly, I hate it, but less selfishly, I just don't think it's working. Yeah. So I don't know.
And you brought up Michigan State. Look how good they're going to be, especially even though Hauser said he's leaving. What if they convince him to come back? I mean, they're going to be really solid next year, with the whole philosophy of players coming back for their fourth and fifth year. It's proven.
Yeah, and I think especially in the Big Ten, the Big Ten isn't as like run and gun as some of these other conferences. So yeah, you need some experienced players, especially at guard and some tough big men. So yeah, I think we're all. They're not going to fire Juwan this offseason, of course. They're not going to move on. But, next year, he's got to start showing that, like you said, Ted, that he can, I don't know if build a program, but sustain a program, because college basketball anymore, you're going to have turnover. Guys are going to transfer. Guys are going to sit out, go pro, whatever. So he's got to figure out something, because other teams aren't slowing down. It's not like other teams are going to be wait for Michigan. He's got to figure something out. So
yeah,
hopefully he does. The Dickinson thing, I'll be curious to see where he goes, because he could have still made some money, NIL money at Michigan.
Sure.
So I wonder if some other school is basically going to be push all the chips in and say, hey man, you're a guy. But
he'll be fun to watch wherever he goes. I agree. I'm very curious to see where he goes. If he stays in the Big Ten,
right,
that'd be hilarious. What if he went to Purdue, just joined in on the long line of their freaking tall centers they've had?
Yeah.
Stay tuned, that's for sure. Well, look, you want to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the women's basketball tournament? Man, what a tournament, and what drama and what craziness. Let's get into that a little bit. Let me just start. I did see the end of the game with Angel Reese, and my first reaction was, man, I didn't like it, but that's basketball, but man, what a whirlwind of social media crap and debate, and it turned into a racial thing. I mean, it's just wild.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to be honest. I enjoy women's college basketball, like, to an extent. I'm not going to act like I'm saying to an extent. I'm not going to act like I would sit down and watch a ton of women's college basketball, because there's just so much other stuff to watch. But because of my job, I did watch quite a bit. I was on a few crews and, covering the SEC, watched a ton of women's college basketball this year, including LSU. So what it kind of showed me with the national title game, or even like go back to the Final Four, not that many people watched LSU women's basketball this year, which, I understand. Angel Reese, what I'm trying to say is Angel Reese played this way all season. That's how she's played her whole career. Talking trash in people's face, running her mouth all the time. That's just her style. She doesn't back down from anyone. So I think a lot of people watched LSU for the first time this past weekend and were like, oh, wow. This girl talks a lot of trash, and it's like, yeah, that's who she is. Same with Caitlin Clark. I covered, or I did a few Iowa games this year. Caitlin Clark is the same way. She's the best player in college basketball. She's gonna move right on to the WNBA whenever she does and play really well there. Haley Van Lith, who plays for Louisville, same thing. I mean, she talks a ton of trash over there. So this isn't like a new thing in women's college basketball, and I think a lot of the analysts were saying that a lot of people, and like the championship game broke a ton of ratings records. So a lot of people were finally watching that game and maybe had their eyes open that, wow, these ladies, these women talk trash just like NBA players do. And it's like, yeah. I mean, if you hadn't watched any games, then maybe you would be surprised by that. Yeah. The social media reaction, it's just, you knew it was going to happen. Because of the racial aspect, like you said, because of it's women playing, and some people don't like that. To me, neither of those things have ever been like an issue to me, so I just don't understand it. I had no issue with Caitlin Clark doing what she did. I had no issue with Angel Reese doing what she did. I don't care that women are out there. Some people say like they don't look classy out there. That just sounds ridiculous. The racial, none of that stuff has ever been an issue to me. So that's why I never took an issue with what was going on. The one thing I'll say is people were saying what Caitlin Clark did and what Angel Reese did were exactly the same. No. And it's just, it wasn't exactly the same. I mean, that's just me saying that it's not exactly the same isn't playing the race card or, doing anything like that. Caitlin Clark made a bucket and did the, you can't see me one time.
To her bench.
It was kind of to her bench, but Haley Van Lith was over there. So people were like, was she doing it at Van Lith? Who knows? But she did it one time, real quick, moved on. Angel Reese sought her out and was following her around at the end of the game, did it multiple times, even after the game, was continuing to do it, which, she's living in the moment. She just won a national title, whatever. So that I'm just saying that to say it was not the same what each player did. That's the one thing I would say. Otherwise, I really couldn't care less. It was a good game.
Yeah, I agree. It is funny that people would say they're the same thing. Ted, I kind of had the same thought as you. At first, when I very first saw, I was like, well, she crossed the line.
Yeah.
But the more and more I thought about it, the more and more I'm like, this happens like every night in the NBA, it seems like. Maybe it's because it's the national championship, like basically the confetti's falling when she was doing this. Maybe it was the sodding her out, that type of thing. But I don't know. I mean, you see Patrick Beverley does this every night to somebody new, it seems like, where he covers his nose and says you stink. Russell Westbrook walks around calling people trash. But we think that's funny. We think that's cool. So I just kind of decided, I don't have a strong opinion either way on it. People clearly do, and so I'll let them kind of battle it out on Twitter. Yeah. One thing I will say, I mean, 9.9 million viewers at 3:30 p.m. on Sunday. Absolutely. Same amount of viewers as the 2021 finals, which was a good finals, if you remember. Suns versus Bucks. I mean, what a wake-up call for the NBA, but what an awesome weekend it really was for women's sports. And here's the thing about Angel Reese. People might be pissed at her, but I mean, what she did probably did more for women's basketball than a lot. And obviously, Caitlin Clark did a big part of that with her entire run. Larry Bird-esque or Pete Maravich-esque, as you would say, Ted.
Yeah.
But I mean, I tell you what, I'll be curious to see what happens next season. I would hope that these two will play each other in the regular season and maybe at the start of the season. Yeah. Because it's going to be fun to see.
Yeah, I saw somebody posted Why not have an opening night doubleheader with the women and men, man? It'd be awesome to see a rematch LSU and Iowa just to get it off and rolling. I mean,
Yeah.
and Caitlin Clark, I just want to throw this out here. I mean, she's the best women player I think I've ever seen. I mean, she just does it all. She's phenomenal with her court awareness. She can drill the three. I mean, she's fun to watch, and they're both fun to watch. I guess back to the Angel Reese thing, it just blows my mind. I got to say it one more time. Whether you agree with what she did or didn't do, how does it is it just our society that things automatically go racial? I mean, come on. It's there were two different things.
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know if it's weird because you don't know if that's like something that's been ingrained in your brain over the course is like some sort of, I guess, like racism. I don't know.
Yeah.
It makes you feel that way. I didn't feel I felt like I viewed it and had nothing to do with race. It was just
absolutely.
I felt like what she did was a little bit overboard. But at the end of the day, it's like Clayton Clark probably talks a lot of trash during the game. And so I don't blame her. One thing I will like if it comes out, or if it probably was true that they were talking trash back and forth throughout the game, I have no problem with it. It's whatever. I wouldn't do it personally, but I don't think it's worth her getting trashed online over it and all that sort of thing. Right. The one thing that kind of was comical to me about the whole thing is why they said that they felt the need to do that, or why Angel Reese said that. It's because of the whole they let the girl from South Carolina shoot. I mean, how was that? I don't understand why that is a big deal. I really didn't get it. I mean, that's Draymond Green every night in the NBA,
right?
And we don't view it as disrespectful. It's like gamesmanship. If you watch that video clip, the girl doesn't even look at the rim.
Right,
it's like why would you guard her? She's not even attempting to go toward the rim. She's not even attempting to shoot. So I thought that was kind of funny. But at the end of the day, man, I mean, both Caitlin Clark should be happy that this happened, and Angel Reese is obviously going to become a lot bigger of a star from what happened. So I think they're both like winners at the end of the day from this quote unquote altercation. So good for them.
Yeah, it's a shame that immediately it goes to race or the gender thing because it's women's sports, and it's a shame too that it's gotten to the point where, like, if you say that, even if you're not playing the race card, you're saying that maybe Angel Reese went a little too far in how she was like following Clark around. If that's just your thought, people say like, "Oh, you're racist." You're saying that, and it's like, no, like I'm just saying specifically what she was doing. I just think she maybe took it a little far. It has nothing to do with race. Like you can't even like voice an opinion without people saying that like you're racist or sexist or whatever. It's like, so it's almost like, why even have like a conversation?
Yeah. So
because you're not even going to let me like voice my opinion on it.
That's it.
That's why you just stay away from it. Really.
Yep.
I mean,
and that's why sometimes you do, because like I didn't really get on Twitter much, while I was on vacation. I hop on yesterday, of course, and that's what everyone is talking about. And, I was just like, there was a couple things I was like, I might reply to this. And it was just like, it's not even worth it. It's not even worth it.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a shame. Because it takes away from a great game. It was a great game,
It does, but it's also, I mean, it's like, it's great for the sport, as stupid and silly as it is. I mean, it got the people talking about it most it's ever been talked about. And I feel like if it was just another game and Iowa loses, it kind of fades off after a couple of days, but we're still talking about it, 2-3 days later. So,
like they say, any publicity is good publicity. It doesn't need, it can be bad, but man, it's putting eyes on the women's game. And, it's a side story. Yeah. It's a side story, but man, the quality of play is just so good, and you guys know me, you're more NBA fan than I am, but I'm not that huge of an NBA fan. I'll get tuned into it when we get going in the playoffs, but the college game, the college men's game, and now the college girls game, I'll watch the women a lot more now just because of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and some of these other, stars that and they play good basketball. I mean, I cannot believe the level of play that they have evolved to. It's just incredible.
Well, another thing that's in women's basketball is the fact that they all stay for 4 years, basically. Yeah. So it's like you actually get to figure out who these characters are. I mean, Caitlin Clark, if this was men's basketball, she's gone after this year. So, but now she's come back another year. So you get to keep building up these characters.
Yeah. Yeah. Women, I mean, I would say it's pretty top heavy. I mean, you know, they're very, very good teams. The basketball is fantastic. It's really good. Same with men's basketball. The lower teams, you know, it's sometimes kind of brutal to watch. So some of these, you know, men's games, like the bottom of the Big Ten, you're just like, man, this is almost, even Michigan this year at times was like, this is kind of rough to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I mean, if they schedule LSU and Iowa next year in the beginning of the season, people are going to watch.
Put them on an aircraft carrier, man. That's what I say.
No, hey, so kind of like your point, I was going to ask you guys. So the 3:30 on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Why not figure out a way? I don't know if, like, you know, with the Final Four, if you'd have to put them all on Friday, or if some would still be on Thursday, Friday, because you wouldn't want to go Saturday then Sunday for Final Four then championship. But why not have the men's and women's championship both on Sunday? Have one at 3:30 and then the other one at, you know, 7 or 8, something like that. Like
100%. That'd be unbelievable.
The men's game tipping off at 9 or 9:30 or whenever it was on a Monday night is just one shining moment. Doesn't run until like midnight on Monday. It's just like this. It makes no sense.
I think about this. I worked an entire baseball game, pitch clock era. Houston Astros versus Detroit Tigers last night. I got back before the game ended.
Right.
And it started at 8 o'clock. Started an hour and a half before that. I mean, which I guess that's not the point, but
still, baseball's usually longer. So
yeah.
Right. Well, it's a lot of fun for sure. And I got one question for you guys. Do you think it's time? I'd like to get your opinion. Should college basketball go to the 4 quarters? The men's side?
I don't think it really matters. No,
you don't.
I don't
the
care.
Flow of the
really
game
one way or the other. Why? It's less breaks. The game goes by a little bit quicker.
Yeah,
right.
I don't know.
One thing I'll say, I wish they'd shorten the shot clock in men's basketball. Mm-hmm. That I think that would speed the game up a little bit. But the 4 quarters thing, I don't know. Like, it just feels faster with 4 quarters.
It does.
It's funny. It's just like splitting hairs. There's literally no difference. Same amount of time. It's just what I guess if you want to divide it into fourths or just leave it as halves. So I guess I wouldn't be mad if they changed it, but it kind of is what it is. I don't care.
One final question on the ladies' side. Did you guys have thoughts on the referees? Because that was another hot topic.
The referees suck all around. I mean, men's game, women's game. I just, you know, it's just so wild to me that they can't pay full-time refs. Like, pay these people like it's a full-time job, so you get the best of the best. It just and also, like, there's always going to be mistakes. I don't know. The refs are always bad.
So you didn't think it was extra sucky?
I don't know.
I mean, it was in that game, but I don't know. What do you do? I don't know what caused that, why that was. I mean, Mulkey was definitely working the refs, and it definitely worked. But it wasn't like it was just only bad calls against Iowa. I mean, just not a good officiated game. It's sad. I guess it's okay because it wasn't a close game, so it's kind of getting put on the back burner and then the whole Angel Reese and kind of Caitlin Clark thing started. But it wasn't not well officiated, that's for sure.
Right, and you might be surprised on this when Clark threw the ball behind her back. Any other game that's a technical, isn't it? I mean, I didn't have a real fault with that.
Yeah, I guess that could be questionable because they said like it was a technical because it was a delay a game. Mm-hmm. And they had already been issued the like warning delay a game.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even that they thought that it was like, you know, rude or, you know, whatever. It was because of the delay game. I don't know.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Before we move on to our prep spotlight, talking about the Tigers, and I know they had a much needed win last night after just completely embarrassing 3-game set in Tampa. Yeah. Still looks to me like it's going to be real trouble for the Tigers. Jared, you were pretty optimistic going in.
I was.
You see some optimism there?
I mean, the bullpen is where I'm very concerned. I think the hitting is going to come around. Yeah, it was a very bad first series. I mean, we saw 7 runs in a win against the Astros last night, a couple home runs. Riley Green hit a home run, Central Torkelson, a couple hard hit balls. I just worry about the bullpen. I mean, obviously, we already had some injuries to the pitching staff with Brisky out, Skubal out. Obviously, Mize is from Tommy John. I worry about that. That's my number one concern. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, Tampa Bay's just a good team. I mean, McClanahan's a really good pitcher. Springs is a good pitcher. So I don't put too much. I mean, it's a brutal schedule the Tigers have coming out of the gate with Tampa Bay, and then Houston, and then the Red Sox, and then it gets worse and worse from there. There's really not an easy series until we're a month or two into the season. But no, it's early. It's too early to say. I haven't totally given up. As you guys know, I was very high on this team. I thought they were going to be better than they were last year. I mean, here's the thing. They started 9-24 in 2021, which was a terrible start. I don't expect them to start that bad this year, and they still ended up winning 70-plus games. So it could happen. It's a young team. I think it's going to really rely on confidence and, kind of riding the wave of momentum. So a big win last night, if they would have blown that 4-0 lead, I really think it could have been like another series sweep. So I just think you take it one game at a time. It was a big time win that they got last night. Now we just see what happens the next couple of days here against the Astros.
How long can we say it's a young team, though? We've been saying it's a young team for 8 years, I feel like. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but at some point, these guys aren't young. I think they got to turn into actual big league players.
It's sad. We thought the rebuild was over, but it was not a rebuild that was done correctly with the Avila administration. So now that Harris is in here, he kind of actually has really hit the rebuild button. And so now we'll give it another shot. It sucks. I mean, nobody wanted it. Right. But it kind of is where we're at right now. It wasn't done right. And if you built, a house on whatever you want, quicksand or whatever a saying like that is, it's not going to work. So we might as well just hit the reset button and build it right back up from scratch.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at.
And where they're at right now. I know only 4 games in. Last in the league in batting average. Last in the league in on-base percentage. 28th in runs. 29th in slugging percentage.
Yeah.
22nd in home runs. So you saying that the hitting's going to come around. I mean, there's nowhere to go but up because they're last in the league in basically every hitting category.
And then the other thing we never talk about much is defense. And I think I saw a pop-up fall in the field and a couple other miscues that you just can't do at the big league level. Let's hope they can bounce back. I don't blame any of it on Hinch. I mean, there's people calling for him to get out of town or resign. I mean, come on, you can only play the players you got, and they need to step up.
Here's where I'm at with the whole thing. And, we love to get hopeful. That's what we do every year with the Lions. I mean, their over-under was set at 69 wins.
Yeah.
So I think maybe our expectations are maybe a little high of what this group is. And, I mean, they're a 70-win team. If they win 70 games, they overachieved. So from that standpoint, I mean, if they're 20 games up below 500, it's a good year.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, they're not really that far behind that out of the gates at 1-3, going against a couple of playoff teams. Obviously, the batting needs to improve, but the batting was not very good last year. If you remember, it was historically terrible.
Right.
So Rome wasn't built in a day. Obviously, I'm not sitting here saying they're going to win the World Series. Obviously, I'm not sitting here saying I love how they started the year. Hasn't been good, but believe me, 3 days ago I was like, what is going on with this team? I can't believe I'm watching this. I had my high hopes. Then you kind of get brought back down to the bottom after the series swept. Then you win against the Astros. Now it's still so early in the season that I don't look too much at the schedule. If they can hover around, right around 500, as long as they're near that, I'll accept it. Now, they're maybe there because it's the very start of the year, but as long as they're still hovering around that number, I can't complain too much. So
it's a marathon, baby. Well, I will ask you this, in your offices, you got the Red Wings, middle of the road, but then you got the Pistons, horrendous losers of 20 of 21, and then the Tigers with this start. Everybody still have a decent attitude because you're working with professional teams in the D.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a dream job, right?
Yeah, right.
So, April in the D isn't what it used to be.
No.
Yeah, obviously I'd love to be covering the freaking 04 Pistons and that sort of in the 06 Tigers, but that's what makes me. I can't wait to actually have a playoff team when I'm in this building and we're winning and get to cover a team that's one of the top teams in the league, or even like a team like say we get Wembanyama. I mean, it'd be a blast to cover the Pistons next year.
That'd be awesome.
So you just got to keep your fingers crossed and hope and pray, man, that it's not going to be like this for very long. It's been like it ever since I've been there. There's some people that have been here since 2016. It's like you think about it, man. That's like 7 years without a playoff team.
Right. That's
So,
tough. Couple of quickies before we move on to the prep spotlight. Michigan had their spring game, didn't really showcase much, but the big story, our friend Reggie Walker was on top of it, that Jaden Davis, the quarterback out of your neck of the woods, has verbally committed to Michigan. That's a good sign for Harbaugh and the crew, huh?
I mean, we're talking about, Jared, you kind of said that Juwan is guiding the Titanic of the Michigan basketball program that's about to sink. It's almost like the complete opposite for Harbaugh and Michigan football, because they've been flipping recruits. They flipped a couple from Ohio State. This past season, we talked about the transfer portal. Harbaugh's been cleaning up in the transfer portal. They've probably got the best offensive line again in college football, not just the Big Ten, probably in college football. Their running backs, they got Blake Corum to come back. Yes, he was coming off an injury, but he probably still could have got drafted, but he came back. They got, JJ McCarthy. They've got another 5-star quarterback. Hopefully Davis doesn't flip.
Yeah.
He's verbally committed, but winning cures all. I mean, think about it. Harbaugh was always doing well recruiting. Now that they've won the past couple Big Tens, made a couple playoffs, you see what it does. Michigan has that brand. Michigan is always going to have that brand. You just got to win. And that right now, Juwan's not really showing that. We're seeing what's happening. Jim Harbaugh is. We're seeing what's happening. So if they win the Big Ten again, or make the playoff again this year, I mean, we're poised for a pretty legit run with Michigan football. I'm definitely going to go watch a Jaden Davis game this fall, because, like you said, he goes to one of the high schools here in Charlotte. So I'm gonna find at least one Friday to go watch him.
Take the fam.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, it's like we traded our soul. It's like we can't have two good Michigan teams at once. Whenever the basketball team's good, the football team's horrendous. Whenever the basketball team sucks, the football team's been good. So but I'll be honest, I'll trade the football team being good for the basketball team being good 10 times out of 10. So
100%.
And Harbaugh is doing great, man. I love to see it. It seems like we've gotten through the whole debacle with the NCAA. We haven't really heard anything about that in a while.
Yeah, right.
The portal, he's cleaning up, like you said. Got a good tight end from Indiana, I know, and a big quarterback signing, which is, I mean, that's what you need. That's what we maybe lacked in the past with the Rudocks and the Pattersons and the Wilton Spites, but ever since McCarthy's kind of come through, and now it looks like we got McCarthy's replacement waiting in the wings. It's an exciting time to be a Michigan fan. I mean, it's brutal how last season ended, obviously, and we're going to be thinking about it a lot as the season unfolds, and maybe they start it strong like they have the last 2 years. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to that postseason play. Either got to win a bowl game, whether it's a Rose Bowl and you don't maybe you lose to Ohio State and you make it to the Rose Bowl, you got to win it. Or if you make it to the college football playoff, you got to win a game. So that's where we're at.
And on top of that, none of us are all humongous hockey fans, but Michigan going to the Frozen Four, and I love the name Frozen Four. That's just
cool.
Just classic.
It is awesome. Yeah, I'm covering it on Thursday, and then I was out of town, but we covered it here in Charlotte. We produced those games. So
awesome.
I was telling the guys who were working on the game, I was like, they weren't really hockey fans, but I was like, watch Michigan. Michigan Tech was in it too.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of Michigan love there for the Frozen Four.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll move on. Do a quick prep spotlight, maybe slip in a little Tedtertainment tonight. But first, a few more words from our great partners. All right, guys, we'll jump right into it here. The prep spotlight presented by Capital Sports Fieldhouse. Kind of starting off the spring sports section right now. Owosso has a really good female pole vaulter, Claire Agnew. She's cleared up to 11 foot. She's already out to a good start here in the bad weather start of the season. 10'6" already in pole vault. And Ovid Elsie's Trice Tokar took first at the Saginaw Valley State University Invitational. He went 14-1. He's the defending state champion. And Chesaning Zach Harlan won the 200 meter at 23.23 seconds. So we're off and rolling, baseball, track here in Michigan. It's tough. I don't know what the answer is because weather is such a factor, especially the first couple of months of the spring season. But we have some great athletes here to start the spring season off.
It's always comical. They have the baseball games scheduled for like 2 weeks ago, and they just get canceled every single year. It's I don't even know why they put them on the schedule, but they're always on there. They always get canceled. But yeah, it is brutal, man. I think if you love baseball, I mean, that sucks. I remember when golf season would come around, and it's you're sitting there, you're inside the wrestling room taking swings on the wrestling mat with a little foam ball. It's this freaking sucks, man. We gotta get out of the course. So I know how those kids are probably feeling.
Yeah. I remember my senior year of baseball. I think we ended up not playing 6 or 8 games Just they didn't get rescheduled because we kept the first few weeks, we kept getting rainouts. It's just, if you live in Michigan, that's kind of what's going to happen, or some of the northern states. But spring sports are definitely fun. It's something about it's Masters Week. March Madness just happened, spring sports, track, baseball and stuff like that's coming around, softball. So it's definitely a fun time of year. Better weather is coming, but the rainouts, when you're an athlete, it makes it tough to kind of like stay engaged sometimes, and yeah, like you said, you're taking batting practice in the wrestling room, or you're taking grounders in the gym, trying to judge a grounder skipping off the basketball court.
It used to suck, man. I mean, you love like baseball games are a freaking blast. The practice is kind of brutal. And so like when those games are getting canceled, like I remembered it from when I was a kid, like the same thing would happen, man. Rainouts, you freaking were pissed when it would happen. So hopefully it's not too much longer. I mean, Ted, you kind of seem like a resident weatherman. I mean, how much longer we got of this kind of slushy weather?
Well, we probably got 3 weeks or so anyway, up and down, until you get to end of April, early May. It's pretty sketchy at best, for sure. Also, before we wrap up this segment, we had awards for the basketball stars out there, the all area basketball players for both the boys and the girls, out by the Argus Press, and I don't disagree with the Argus's selection. Player of the year, Xander Woodruff, averaged 24 points a game, led Langsburg to the quarterfinal. Also Ty Coleman from New Lothrop, he had a couple 40-plus point games. He's a senior. Gabe Lynn out of Durand, he was the player of the year last year, had another solid season. Clay Wittenberg of Ovid-Elsie, Mason Struck, big center for Chesaning, and Corunna's Braylon Sosha made the first team all Argus. So congratulations to them. And also on the girls side, Aubrey Rogers out of Morris, averaged 21.5 points a game. She was the player of the year. She was joined by Jordan Lawrence of Durand, Ava Bates and Evelyn Cole of Ovid-Elsie, Mackenzie Dorner also of Morris, and freshman out of Owosso. She's going to be one to watch here in the next few years, Danica Dwyer, an outstanding point guard, and she made the first team. So congratulations to everybody there as we now move forward into the spring season.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll just take a real quick pause, and we'll come back for a short entertainment tonight, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
All right. Well, something has been pestering me kind of over the last couple weeks since our last recording. I mean, Ted, you said that you were ditching cable. And in the middle of that, I kind of didn't really grasp what you were saying. But the more and more I think about it, I mean, what are you talking about? I mean, your DVR, your cable setup, your account, every extra possible HBO, Showtime channel. I mean, that's who you are. That is your identity. I hate the idea that you're thinking about cutting the cord. I mean, I like to imagine you as kind of like a cowboy back in the day, where it's like your 6-shooter, like you can pull my DVR remote from my cold dead hands. I mean, the more and more I thought about that, man, the more and more it really bothered me. I mean, what are you talking about? Who cares you to pay a few extra bucks? That is who you are. That's something that you can always rely on at the end of a long day. That you can sit on your couch, your DVR remote in hand. Anything you missed, you can watch, and anything possibly on TV, you got it covered. What is going on? Are you really having, it's like a midlife crisis or something?
Well, I'm glad you brought it up because I did do a little further research. And by the way, I wasn't going to give up the DVR because whatever service I signed up with was going to be unlimited DVR through the cloud. So, that argument kind of goes away, but I did do some number crunching, and I actually sat down, went through my cable TV list of all the channels I watch on a regular basis, my premium channels that I gotta have, like HBO Max and Showtime. And after it was all said and done, and you're 100% right, it wasn't that much more money to keep the cable. So I think I've decided I am keeping the cable. I'm probably going to eliminate one of the DVR boxes, but other than that, I'm probably going to stay right where I'm at. So you can sleep easy tonight.
You have numerous DVR boxes?
3 of them.
Why?
My wife has to have one in her office because she has to record different shows on HGTV. We have the main DVR in our family room upstairs where her and I watch that one primarily. And I had one in the basement because I used to record games. This is so corny. I used to record the high school broadcast on the television station that was the local access. That's how I would get the recordings and pass them on. Now that we no longer do that, I don't think there's really a need for that DVR. So we're going to be a 2 DVR family coming up shortly.
Yeah, I mean that's that's kind of. I mean, but you have to do it because right, if you can't, you're not going to unplug the DVR in your basement and take it upstairs when you want to watch something. But
Exactly.
I thought, I mean, I guess I didn't have like TiVo or back in the day when that stuff first came out. Now DVR, like for us, we watch it on Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we're logged on, up in our bedroom or down in the living room, we can watch the same DVR stuff. Your DVRs don't work like that?
No. It's
So
whatever.
like if you have it recorded down in the basement, you can't see it upstairs.
Exactly. And the other thing that used to bug me, every once in a while, you'd have a crash of whatever the chip is in the DVR, and everything you had recorded, there's no way of getting it back, right? And I never understood that. I always thought at the cable company, if you turned in a box, you could maybe hook in a thumb drive and at least
Well,
get
dude,
the
what
program.
do you have on these? Like your freaking daughter's graduation or something is on these DVRs. I mean, what are you like so worried about losing?
I'll tell you what. Maybe on the next podcast, because I did actually do a little research thinking, what do I watch? I have a whole list of my shows that I'll have to bring you guys on board sometimes, and it would definitely crack you up. So there's a lot of stuff.
I'm sure. One thing you can add to your list. This is my one entertainment item for today.
Mm-hmm.
This is from the same makers as Last Chance U. Cheer is the name of this series.
Yep.
Greg Whitley, who is the director of Last Chance U basketball, Last Chance U football, and this Cheer show. I mean, he really stands alone, man. The cinematography on these shows, the storytelling. I mean, the fact that I am watching a show about cheerleading and I am like very invested in it, it should tell you all you need to know about how they put together these shows. The pacing. I mean, the way they shoot the cheerleading scenes, the action scenes, the basketball scenes, the football scenes. I mean, it's like it can't be touched. It looks so good. They have popular music when you need it. They hit all the right themes. I feel like you guys don't follow me as much on this show. I think Ted, I don't think you've ever watched really any of the Last Chance U shows, have you?
I think I watched the first 2 seasons, and that it's not that I didn't like it, but there's just so much on my list.
Right.
So I have to pare them down, Jared,
Yeah.
But it was good. Well done. Absolutely.
Yeah. I haven't watched any of I've seen clips here and there, but Last Chance U, same reason. I don't doubt that it's great, but it goes to show, at least like listening to you explain that show, no matter what the topic is, or like the content, if it's very well produced and done well, then I'll mostly watch almost anything.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if it's like say an NFL football game or something that I'm highly interested in, but it's poorly I don't know, I'd probably still watch the football game, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like when would you ever watch a show about cheerleading? But
Right.
because it's done so well and they make it so interesting, you're gonna watch it. So,
and you just compare it to a show like the golf show. I mean, where I felt like I was just like slapped together almost, and you really got nothing from it. Like it's just so much better. So I don't know. I just love them. I hope they keep coming out. Honestly, I hope they go back to football. That's still the best of them all. But whatever they do, it's working. So
yeah.
Good stuff there. Well, I only have a couple. I just finished watching on Showtime season 2 of Your Honor. I can't remember if I talked about it before, but the star is Bryan Cranston. He plays a New Orleans judge who gets tangled up with the mob down there and a couple different gangs. It's got a great subplot that starts it off. If you watch the very first episode of season 1 of Your Honor on Showtime, it'll definitely suck you in. So it's really good. Well done. And another one, this is one I think, Jared, you would like. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch it or if you have Showtime. It's called Yellow Jackets. Have you heard about the concept of that one? It's about a girls' high school state championship soccer team that is flying out to the national tournament, and their plane crashes in the Canadian Rockies. And it's a story about how some of them survived, and then they do flash forwards to 25 years in the future, which is current time. So there's a lot of what went on when they were young and then what's going on now 25 years
it's
later.
like what's the is it Ethan Hawke movie? What's the rugby movie?
Similar to that, yeah. As far as the survival,
yeah.
And it's very well done, and I would definitely recommend it. I'm on episode 7 of season 1. I see they just started season 2, so it's a good series. Well done.
Here's the thing with these recommendations, man. Like we said with your cable package, nobody's got all these. Show. What was the first show it was on? It was on Apple or whatever. Then this one's on Showtime, and then
I can't help it.
I mean,
I'm a shill for these premium services. I mean, they should give me free premium. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, maybe that's the next sales pitch when the partner contracts come around. Call up Netflix, call up HBO, and be like, "Hey, we've got this segment on our podcast, Entertainment Tonight. We'll say that it's brought to you by HBO Max." Just
Amen. And by the way, you bring it up, Matt. I mean, we don't shill for advertisers here on this podcast, but most of our advertisers, their contracts are up end of June, and I'm sure most of them will re-up. But if anybody does want to advertise with us, just send us a shout out, and we got room for you. We'll fit it in, right?
We'll fit it in for sure.
Entertainment needs a sponsor, right?
What's that?
Entertainment Tonight needs a sponsor.
Absolutely.
That way we can't ever kick it out of the show like we like to do sometimes, and you get upset about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we could get it, like with the Prep Spotlight is brought to you by Capital Sports Fieldhouse. It could be Entertainment Tonight brought to you by whatever you want. But so quickly, you mentioned we didn't bring it up. I know we're about to sign off. So it's Masters week.
Yeah.
Jared, you mentioned the golf show. Are we locked in on the Masters? I mean, is it the same like always? Of course, we're going to watch the Masters depending on who's on the leaderboard on Sunday or what. Scotty Scheffler, the favorite, Rory, John Rahm, Cam Smith, Jordan Spieth, they're all up there as the favorites. Tiger is playing.
I mean, this is the most anticipated Masters, I think, in a long, long time because of the LIV versus PGA drama. I mean, so I'm going to be working every second of it, but if I wasn't, I'd be watching every second of it. I mean, Brooks Koepka's playing well. That's cool to see that he's like kind of rounding into form right in the perfect time. I mean, he usually is close at the Masters. He's never won, or maybe I don't know. I don't think he hasn't won one. I don't believe.
No.
So yeah, you got Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods paired together. You got Brooks and Rory paired together. I mean, they know they're not shying away from the PGA and live drama, which I love. And I don't want a live guy to win, but it would be awesome. It would be a very fun storyline if a live guy comes into this event and wins the biggest one of the year. It'd be huge for that tour, and it would just be hilarious to see how the PGA Tour guys would be so upset about it.
Right. Yeah, I'm curious to see like what kind of happens there, because that kind of is the drama of the PGA. I mean, Rory, it seems like every press conference is talking about something that has to do with all that. Tiger obviously has been outspoken on it, and then the LIV guys have been too. So it's just it is something about the Masters. We probably say it every spring on the podcast when it comes around. It just feels like when that comes around and those birds are chirping, even if they're fake birds, when those birds are chirping on the broadcast, it just makes you feel like makes you like feel warm inside when you're watching the Masters.
Wait a minute, are you saying those birds are fake? Is that
I believe they do fake. Yeah, I do think they pipe in some fake.
Oh
fake
my goodness, you just ruined my viewing. I can't believe it.
No, but that is what sucks, man. If I had it my way, it could be 3 inches of snow on the ground. But as soon as this Thursday rolled around, if we had 60-degree weather and the sun was shining, I would take it every year. Instead of this BS, like kind of half spring, half winter that we deal with for the whole month of March and basically the whole month of April too.
Well, I'm still a couple weeks away from putting the pontoon in the water. Matt, you going to make a trip up here so we can do another tune cast this summer?
We're definitely we're making a trip up this summer. I mean, I know we talked about it. Jared called me out on the whole 20th anniversary class reunion thing. That is happening this summer. So
all right.
So we'll be up at least for a little stretch. So maybe we'll have to schedule the second annual. I don't know if it'll end up being annual, but the second tune cast anyway.
Should be. Absolutely. Well,
that was a fun time. That was fun.
Yeah.
So that's probably it for you, Ted, right? When the pontoon gets in the water, that's when it's
that's officially spring summer season beginning for sure.
Usually though, around this time you have some issues with the boat. What's the issue this year?
I hope no issues, because remember I fixed it last year. I had a full season of no issues. Just
there you
going
go.
back. Yeah. So fingers crossed, fingers
Nice.
crossed. All right, guys, great catching up with you again. We're glad everybody had a good spring break. Actually, I'm going to take a little bit of a mini spring break coming up at the end of this week, but I'll be back to record the next podcast, which will be 261. This is the 3 Point Podcast presented by Memorial Healthcare Center and Skymint Cannabis. Speaking of Skymint, we just had April Fool's Day. Well, no joke bundles on the agenda. Flowers and pre-rolls, edibles, extracts, vape, no joke 8s. That's Skymint Cannabis, from farm to stash, grown right here in Michigan, over 20 locations in the state. Check out the Skymint Reserve and also find out anything you want to know about Skymint at skymint.com. Also, Memorial Healthcare. Well, they got a lot of good things going on, and including the exercise area, the Sky Track. They've got a big open house coming up at the end of April and a whole lot more. Check them out at memorialhealthcare.org. I keep grinding away there, trying to maintain my weight, and it goes up and down a little bit. But if you don't get the moving in, it's just going to keep going up, right, boys?
Stick with it. I always say, even if you get 10, 15 minutes in, that's better than nothing.
Absolutely. I got to get off the chair, away from the TV and the DVR. That's what it's all about.
Well, a lot of those treadmills or ellipticals, they have TVs on the treadmill, so you can still watch your stuff. Just get moving.
That's true. Actually, my current routine is when I'm on the Sky Track, I'm listening to some of my favorite podcasts, and that's what gets me through. Also want to thank our other great local partners, which include AZEE Printing Solutions, Capital Sports Fieldhouse, Crow Real Estate and Auction, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals, Taphouse and Grille, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. Don't forget to give us a follow on the socials at 3 Point Pod. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Go Tigers. Peace and love. Be kind. Thanks for listening. See you, everybody.